And welcome back to Talking Sports. Sergeant Rock, Mike Cox. Joe somewhere stuck in traffic, I do believe. But he's en route from what I understand. All right, let's get started. University of Illinois basketball team went up to Madison, Wisconsin to take on the
number 4 ranked Badgers.
Wisconsin Badgers, and it was pretty much what we expected. Illinois lost that game. I can't remember what the score was, but
close to 20, I think.
Was it close to 20?
18, 19, something like that, I believe. 60 or 49ish, 60 something, whatever. It was ugly.
Yeah, they had no answer for Frank. What's his last name?
Frank Kaminsky or Sam Decker or Nigel Hayes or.
I mean, they just did any and everything that they wanted to do to their Illini team from start to finish.
The kid that's playing in Trayvon Jackson's place, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Something Bronson or Bronson something. He's really good for that offense.
You know, about the first 5 minutes, I thought Illinois had a halfway decent chance.
Well, it's like what we talked about last week. If they played defense like they had against Michigan State, if they shot the ball well, I know that everybody says, oh yeah, everybody has to shoot the ball well, but more so with Illinois, they have to shoot the ball well because you've got Nana in the middle most of the time, but in the Wisconsin game, you got a guy that can bang with Nana. I mean, you know, they grew up playing against each other in Chicago. So
well, it was one thing I noticed that during the first half of the ball game, they were taking it to the basket. They were taking it to the hoop.
Yep.
Until they Wisconsin started to, denying them, and and then they started doing the kick out thing and started taking jumpers, and none of those were falling.
Well, and that's where they have to shoot well comes into play. You know, if they, I don't know, I can't remember what they were off the top of my head from 3-point range. But if they make 5 more of those or 6 more of those, it's a different ball game. And the ones they were taking, they weren't missing by much. They were rimming it or whatever the case may be. And I think Ray could have been more aggressive. Rayvonte Rice. I think part of it is, as we saw in the beginning of the year when Ray was playing, everybody kind of deferred to him. And I think you saw a little bit of that. And I think even John Gross talked about that. They have to be more aggressive about it. And
what, you talking about getting the ball to Rayvonte?
Well, no, I'm just saying, yeah, they give it to him and they let him do what Ray Rice does. And that's typically score and take it to the rim and bang somebody, get free throws, whatever the case may be. And at the beginning of the year, you saw a lot of times when Rayvonte had the ball, everybody just kind of stopped and waited to see, what he did.
Well, the way these guys have been playing, when he was out, that they have developed a lot more confidence.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So therefore, I can handle this. And
you would think,
huh?
You would think.
Yeah, you would think so. Rayvonte, how many points he had in the game? Something like 4 or 5 points, something like that.
Something like that, somewhere in there. It wasn't a lot. Malcolm Hill had his norm. What we've gotten accustomed to seeing from Malcolm Hill. I don't know that he scored 20 some odd points or whatever it was, but he had a good Malcolm Hill game. Kendrick Nunn, he kind of shot a little. His shooting was rough, and I still think he was in double figures. But then you still saw quite a bit, I thought, when Rayvonte Rice got the ball. Everybody just kind of slowed down for a second, and it would seem that was enough to get them kind of out of kilter, out of the flow, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then, the other thing is Wisconsin is really good.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that had a lot to do with it.
I'm thinking they're another Final Four team. Will they get a number 1 seed, you think?
I think they should. They got 2 losses. One of them's a really bad loss to Rutgers, but, they've won, 9 straight in the Big Ten, 10 straight in the Big Ten, something like that. Our resident Wisconsin homer just showed up, so.
Joe Stricker, Steve Stricker's brother.
Where's your orange and blue and red and white shirt?
It's under my.
Oh, okay.
Under my jacket.
Yeah, but you think they're worthy of a number 1 seed?
I think they are. From everything that I've seen, every time I've seen Wisconsin play ball, I don't care who it is, Whether, it's Indiana who shoots lights out, it's got the probably, if not the best offense in the Big Ten, then in the top 2 or 3, they just destroy Indiana. It doesn't matter who they play or what style you're bringing. Bo's got somebody who can beat you at it. And, the past couple games, Sam Decker's finally figured out, hey, I'm Sam Decker, I can play. Mm-hmm. And he's playing.
Well, if you notice during this ball game, like I said, early part of the ball game, Illini was going to the hoop. They was getting some layups and getting some pretty decent looks. Then Wisconsin started to extend the zone, and they did what they call it. Start pushing the line out to the 3-point line. And then, when they couldn't get inside to the basket, they started throwing the ball out, kicking out, taking them jumpers. Like you said, they wasn't missing by much, but they were missing.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know how much of it truly was, Wisconsin extending the zone, pushing them out a little bit, as it was. And Gross talked about it. He said we have to be more aggressive. On both the offensive end of the ball and the defensive end of the ball. And I think they kind of reverted back maybe a little bit to the beginning of the year where these guys are really good. Can we play with them? Because, Nunn's a sophomore. Hill's a sophomore. LeBron Black's a freshman who's still trying to get it figured out. And he's never going to get a call. So recently he's always been in foul trouble.
So you saying they got a little skittish?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Good
Joe
team,
Stricker?
Good teams make you do that.
Yeah.
And you think about any sport, when you're kind of on that second level, and when you're playing second level teams, you can do the things you want to do. But when you play a first tier team like Wisconsin, the things that, like your 3-point shot. It's the same shot as you shoot here in the Assembly Hall. But mentally the basket shrinks because what you start thinking about is if I don't make this shot, they're transitioning out. So, you get a little tighter on those shots. You talk about penetration and being aggressive. Well, you got a Nigel Hayes who's very athletic and play out on the edge, and he can force action to the baseline into Kaminsky. Kaminsky's not a shot blocker, but he's 7 feet tall. He's a shot changer. And just those little elements there can take a layup, and it comes off glass, and now you transition into buckets. And going back to that game, if you look at 2 points of the game, the last 2 minutes of the first half.
I thought you were going to say the tip-off in the end.
I never steal Sarge's line.
Okay.
Those are last 2 minutes of the first half. Wisconsin stretches the lead to 8 going into halftime. They then came out and jumped the lead to 15 in the first 2 minutes of the second half. And then from that point, the game basically played even.
Right.
Until about the last 3 minutes of the game, and then Wisconsin stretched and they got to 20-point victory. And they talk about, in basketball, the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half are the most important parts of the game. And when you got a veteran team like Wisconsin who understands that, they'll play a game almost similar to like an NBA team, where they'll play even with you for the first 16 minutes of the half. And then they'll go ahead and go on a 6-0 run.
Just a little bit.
And it's just, as you said, about extending the zone or extending the defense. So psychologically, as a team like Illinois, you're like, man, it's like a foot race. You've been shoulder to shoulder with this guy. You thinking, I'm running with him the whole way, when actually he's running at 80% efficiency. You're running at 95. When you crank it up to 100, and he cranks it up to 100, there's a 15% difference, and that's where games are won and lost.
You were saying that, I was thinking of, and he had help chemically, but that Lance Armstrong stare that he was so famous for, when his biggest competitor in the mountains in Switzerland would, get close to him, he'd just turn around and look at him and
then next thing
pedal away.
He'd stand up off the seat, and now he's gone. And I think that's that difference. Going to your question earlier about, is Wisconsin the #1 seed? I believe they are. But once again, we get this reputation. Big Ten is when the Big Ten's solid, then okay, yeah, let's give them number 1 seed. But they're going to fight the stigma that there's not that many teams in the top 25 from the Big Ten this year, which to me actually bodes well for Wisconsin in this fashion. It shows their dominance and consistency. Mike mentioned, other than that Rutgers game where they just everybody has a throwaway game in sports. Football, baseball, basketball. It's that one game, I don't care how good you are, you just don't show up. We've seen, if you go back to the NFL season, the Patriots got clowned by the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
And then I think it was a Monday night game, Kansas City Chiefs, and everybody's like, what's wrong with Tom Brady? And they won the Super Bowl. We see it in baseball where a team might go on a 3 or 4 game losing streak or weekend stretch where they're just like, hey, we're already up 10.
Yeah.
And they're getting beat by 8 or 9 runs every game.
Exactly. So, so tanking it, lack of a better term, it happens. But, Illinois, I think, we talked about this Friday before the game when I said that the key for Illinois in that game was could Nana guard Kaminsky one-on-one without help. I said if he could, Illinois had a chance. I said if he couldn't, they'd be down 20 at the 10-minute mark. Well, they lost by 20, and he could not go. Kaminsky's offensive game, it is ridiculous.
He had a career high. I mean, he was averaging 17 points a game. He scored, 23, 25?
Something like that.
Against Illinois. I mean, he was just doing what he wanted to do underneath the basket. Little baby hood.
And some ridiculous stuff, too.
Some rebounds, and,
That's NBA big man footwork, what you're seeing from him. And when you see, obviously, some people say, whoa, slow down, Stovall.
No, he's there.
He's there, and the fact that he can face the basket and shoot the 3
makes him dangerous. It's going to make him a lot of money.
He's going to be a rich man. And the amazing part is him and Nana, like I said it last Friday, they were teammates in AAU, and Nana was the higher recruited player when they came out of high school.
Yep.
So that just shows to athletes in general, you work hard and work on your game.
Well, you look how much bigger Kaminsky is over
He's an inch taller.
Yeah, well, but I mean, physically, he's wider, a whole lot wider than.
But that's my
that's
point
working.
about
That's your game.
That's when you put that from your freshman year now to your senior year. You get in that gym. You get in that training table and eat and load carb loading and get that food in you and bulking up. This is the end result. Now when Trayvon Jackson comes back, and you were talking earlier about the point guard that Wisconsin's been using right now. That's just another
he's good.
piece.
He's
to the
really
puzzle.
good.
And now you can run 2 points. You can have a guy coming off the bench. You mentioned Sam Decker, who when he was a freshman, everybody thought Sam Decker was a lottery pick in 2 years.
The next Larry Bird.
And now he's really starting to pan out in terms of his athletic ability and his basketball ability. So I know I fell in love with Wisconsin last year, and after this year, they'll be in a rebuilding stage because they're going to be losing a lot of guys. But this is a team. We look at Kentucky; they got the best talent. You look at Wisconsin right now. I think Wisconsin's got the best team, and barring any one of those crazy March Madness hiccups in the tournament, they could go back to the Final Four.
I'm with you on this year on it. I'm with you this year on it. I got Michigan coming in Sunday. Should be a W.
Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Yeah.
Michigan State.
Mm-hmm. Michigan State coming back. Yeah.
All right, I'll take that W back.
Well, they might because they're 12-1 at home, something like that.
The key here, go back to when they beat Michigan State and East Lansing.
They shot really well.
They shot well, but the defense
was phenomenal.
You keep it in that stretch, that 4-game winning streak before they went to Wisconsin. They kept their opponents under 60 points a game. Right. You always have a chance if you can do that. Now, one of the anomalies that came out of that game, Michigan State was 6 for 17 from the free throw line. in that game up in East Lansing.
They haven't missed since, have they?
I think Izzo won't let them leave until they make 100 in a row.
100 in a row.
You know. But I think that's one of the things that'll be key coming back here. How's the free throw? Now, Illinois is shooting at a ridiculous, like 81%
First in the
clip.
nation, I think. First or second in the
Yeah,
nation.
said that last week.
Right. So the key going to your conversation about aggressiveness, they've got to attack the glass. They've got to be able to get to the line. You know, Ravante is working his way back into his old form. Hill and Nunn have done, to me, nobody. And I want to meet the guy who predicted that they would play this way when Ravante went down. That Hill and Nunn would be this good at this point in the season.
Well, Coach Gross said he's gonna need some more players to step up, and those two did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, in like, I can't remember which game it was, but I think it wasn't the Michigan State game at East Lansing. Dockich was calling the game on ESPN, and Malcolm Hill was shooting a free throw. I think it was Hill, or it might have been Nunn, but whichever one it was, you know, he referenced the fact that they were 60 or 61 coming out top 100 coming out of high school, and his point was, I want to see what them other 60 guys are like, because there's no way they're playing as well as, I think it was Kendrick Nunn. He said there's no way they're playing as well as Kendrick Nunn is right now, a year later.
Right.
So,
well, you know what, and that goes back to just like with Frank Kaminsky. The thing about recruiting, the casual fan, and not just the casual fan, but you know, these people who get on the message boards and stuff like that, they get wrapped up in the stars. You know, he's a 5-star, he's a 4-star. You know, he's a McDonald's All-American, he's all-world, he's this, he's that. There's usually about 8 guys every year that just can't miss prospects.
and they all end up in Kentucky.
And then the other 2 go to Duke. 6 go to Kentucky, 2 go to Duke, and then that's it. But then from that point on, it's really about fit, opportunity, and desire. Because when Malcolm Hill, a good friend of mine, coached Malcolm down in Southern Illinois in AAU. And he always used to tell me about Malcolm Hill. Hey, I'm telling you, when this kid comes up here, you guys are going to love him, you're going to love him, you're going to love him. Well, the first time I saw Malcolm Hill play last year, I called him after the game and I said,
What are you talking about?
hey, what are you, this kid, he's a kid.
Yeah,
he's
because he was 17 when he got here.
I said, he's skinny, he's slow, he said, I'm telling you, well, he knew what Malcolm Hill had. And I think, you know, the more opportunity these guys get, you know, because you think about those top 10 guys that we talk, the conversation with them is one and done.
Right.
Oh, you know, he's just coming to school to play and get his opportunity, and then he's going to go on to the NBA. But these other kids come in with kind of a chip on their shoulder, to, as you said, to show people, I know how to play this game too. I know how to play it at a high level. You know, maybe I didn't get the accolades. You know, you think about Kendrick Nunn and Jalen Tate.
Yeah, the team they were on.
The misfortune for them is they played with Jabari Parker.
Exactly.
You know, so that's like playing on the Bulls with Michael Jordan. His game will be a little bit higher than the other guys on the team. Doesn't mean the other guys can't play. Going back to the Michigan State game, the key on Sunday, game's at 6:30, so it's a prime time affair, is what they will do on the offensive glass. And when I say they, meaning Illinois. Because you know that Valentine and Dawson
Are going to get their.
they're going to be banging the glass relentlessly.
Well, particularly given the fact of how bad State looked in East Lansing against Illinois. And I think Tom Izzo is probably one of the greatest coaches to ever put a tie on and coach a college basketball sideline. So you know he's going to have them ready. And between, you know, Ann Arbor, East Lansing, I go to East Lansing all the time. But they just didn't play well in front of their home crowd.
Right. And the other thing is that this is the time of year that Michigan State always start playing well.
And that's they haven't lost since, have they?
Nope. And I think that's where now moving into Sunday's game is pivotal for both teams in the fact that you're trying to play to be in the top 4 in the Big Ten right now. Because you don't want to play, you want to get if you're in the bottom half or the bottom 4, you're playing on Wednesday. If you're in that middle tier, you're playing on Thursday.
Right.
We're talking about the Big Ten tournament.
Right.
Right.
And the top 4, you
You
don't play until Friday.
right? Yeah.
And so I think that's the other thing is that Illinois being 7-6, they got an outside shot with 6 games left. Excuse me, to get to that top 4. Is it realistic? I'd say no, just due to the inconsistency. They played good over the last 8 games, but I just don't think in the last 6 they can win out to get into that upper echelon, but at least stay out of that bottom 4. Don't have any quirky things happen to you.
Well, and you look at who they would have to jump to get in that top 4. There's a lot of good teams. You got Rutgers, you got, I believe, Ohio State, Indiana, maybe Purdue, Michigan State.
Well, your top 4 right now, you've got Wisconsin, Ohio State, Purdue, Michigan State,
And then Rutgers, right?
Yeah.
Or not Rutgers, Maryland.
Maryland, right? So, your outside shot. I think Ohio State is 8-5 right now. So, and then I think Michigan State is 9-5 or 8-4 somewhere in that area.
Right.
But realistically, your goal is to stay in that middle of the pack. With 17 victories right now, the other thing is you want to get that 20, that magical 20 number.
Before the tournament.
Right.
Right.
So then, you'll be, Illinois, if things play out in a realistic area, they'll make the tournament, but they'll be more like an 11th seed going into the tournament. They'll be one of the last teams actually as an at-large bid going in.
Yeah, they'll be sitting in front of the TV at 5:30, waiting to see.
Well, I mean,
waiting to see if we got in or not.
funnier things have happened for Illinois at the United Center. So
In terms of the tournament,
yeah, in terms of the Big Ten tournament.
yeah.
So I mean, they get. I think if they get to the weekend in the Big Ten tournament, they're not an 11 seed in the Big Dance. They might be an 8 or a 9.
If they can avoid Wisconsin being in their bracket, that's
I think every.
right. That's my point.
Are saying that,
If you can avoid that bracket, you got a shot.
Well, Selection Sunday is in 3 weeks?
Mhm.
Is it
Yes.
3 weeks? And we're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about who's going to be those number 1 seeds. And we also will talk about the Big Ten is considering benching freshman athletes.
Ridiculous.
What were you saying about Kentucky and Duke?
Well, you stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Talking Sports WBCP 1580. Lunch break.
It was a good thing that even when we're on TV, that they go to break, because it would be a shame if they have to sit here and watch what we do when we go to commercial break.
It's similar to like when you go to the zoo and they feed the animals. Mommy, why does he have to put all of it in his mouth at one time?
Why are they scurrying around like
Right.
that?
Why'd the white one jump on the black one?
But
That's a racist tiger.
Yeah, that's what we do.
That only took a half an hour.
And the white one always hides his food.
We're on TV, man. I had to put a napkin over it.
He got it all hidden over in the corner. What's that for?
I didn't have time to throw it away.
Right.
All right, whatever you say. All right, let's get back to the program. Like I said, Selection Sunday is 3 weeks away. Of course, you got Kentucky, who's going to be a number 1 seed. Gonzaga.
Is your strongest team coming out of the West?
Yeah, they're planning on being a number 1 seed.
Yep.
And I'm really surprised how well they have been playing this season, because last season they were what you didn't hear too much about Gonzaga.
Gonzaga has always been that team that is flirted with the top 5 because they play in a weak conference. They pad their record with a lot of wins, but when they get into the tournament, Mark Few is a great coach, but he just can't get them past the second or third round, because once they get into a possession game, those are the games that teams from the West Coast or teams who like to get out and run just can't play in the NCAA tournament. Once you get into that possession game where everyone counts, defense is, increased to, as you said, about extending your zones. And now that freelance basketball that you played all year long, you can't do. Those are the teams that usually fall to the wayside early during the tournament.
Yeah.
Now, the other night, fantastic rivalry game, Duke and Carolina. And
Dickie B missed it.
Duke came back from being down 8 with less than 2 minutes left to take it to overtime, then eventually winning the game. I think that was their cry for being a number 1 seed, coming out of the ACC. I know Louisville is just, they've had some struggles over the past couple of weeks. And they lost to North Carolina State at home, then went on the road and lost to Syracuse. So I don't know if Rick Pitino's team will be able to make a cry for being a number 1 seed this year. They'll probably be a 2 or 3 seed the way they've been playing.
Or quite possibly even a 4 for that matter, depending upon how everybody else stacks up. Going back to Duke for a minute, I get it's Duke and they're ranked, I think, 5 right now. But do you make them a number 1 seed and Virginia a number 1 seed?
Well, see, here's the thing. Right now, when you go back to what you said about name recognition, when you look at the landscape of basketball right now, and you can go back even to the 80s when they used to do this, you would have so many teams on the East Coast that were so strong that they may grab the lesser, the 2 number 1s, and send them out west. So that's where we're going back to this point about Gonzaga. Do they really, based on strength of schedule and RPI, deserve to be a number 1 seed? And I think that's where you're going to get into the argument when you get into Selection Sunday. Do they deserve a number 1 seed, or do they drop to a 2 seed and one of these, like a Virginia or Duke, do you send them west and make them the number 1 seed out there?
Well, I think as the polls have it right now, Kentucky number 1, Gonzaga 2, Virginia 3, Wisconsin 4. You've got every area of the country represented in those top 4. So it'd be really cool to see them just
leave it at,
just slide them right where they're at.
But
and then your Dukes and your whoever's
get bounced around.
Yeah.
The problem with that, and I agree with you, but the problem with that is that it seems like on Selection Sunday, the criteria is totally different than what the polls are.
Yeah.
In terms of how you get a seed. And I go back to this, strength of schedule and how many of the top 50, what's your record?
Right.
The top 25, what's your record? The last 10 games, what's your record? How you playing down the stretch?
You got anybody hurt or not?
Not. There you go.
Yeah.
So you get all these other factors that come in on Selection Sunday, and because of that, as you just said, natural selection would tell you. We got Kentucky, Virginia, Gonzaga, and Wisconsin. So
boom, 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 boom.
Right. So that tells you that Gonzaga would be west, maybe Virginia is east, Kentucky is southeast, and Wisconsin's midwest.
Right.
And you're done. You would think you would be done.
Right. And then you sort out the rest of the other 16 or whatever it is.
Right. But you get, once again, the selection committee and then you sit back on ESPN. Joe Lunardi says, Mr. Bracketologist. Well, if it's that to the point where, because the other day, last night, Purdue beats Indiana. Now they're one of the last 4 in, Purdue.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, well, the way Purdue's been playing, they should be in the tournament.
Well, particularly over Illinois, because the last thing I saw was Illinois went from last 4 in to definitely in. And then, Purdue's run off, 4 or 5 straight, 6 straight, whatever it is.
Right.
And A.J. Hammond's finally figured it out. So if part of that criteria is how well you're playing the last month of the season, how are they, as you said, how are they a last 4 in?
Right. And that's where, like I said, this criteria is baffling to us when we look at it. And, the old saying, the eye test.
Right.
Purdue is a tournament team based on what I've seen in terms of the eye test.
And they got 20 wins now, don't they? Or 19.
19, right there.
Right there, yeah.
And even Indiana, even though they've lost a couple in a row, Indiana's a tournament team.
Yeah.
Now, the problem for Indiana is going to be, going back to what I said about playing a possession game, Indiana's struggling because on the baseline, even though Pierre is back, they still are weak on that baseline when it comes to playing defense. Offensively, when you got a good guard play with Yogi Ferrell and James Blackman, that carries you in the tournament, because usually good guard play in the tournament is what you need. But you also need sometimes that one big guy on the baseline who's either a stopper or he's just that bruiser who can rebound and block some shots and, do some things that, like, and I hate to go back to Illinois, but when you look at their baseline, Nana Egwu, he's going to change shots on the defensive end, but he's not going to give you anything on the offensive end. And when those threes aren't falling, and as I go back to the point about the possession game, who's your guy you're going to put down in the low block? Are you going to put a freshman like LeRon Black, who's getting spotty time right now,
Right.
and put him down there? The answer is probably not.
No,
So-
you're going to want Malcolm Hill to wander down there and be Malcolm Hill.
Right.
But that's not really Malcolm Hill.
Right. And that's not, and the other thing is, that's not Malcolm Hill in the fact of, put Malcolm Hill on the block, now you take away the ability for him to face the basket and to create shots and also create fouls where he
Right.
can shoot free throws. So those are those things that are going to be looked at. So
Let me ask you a question. Do you think the football committee got it right?
yes, they nailed it.
And I understand it's the NCAA, but how hard would that be to do that with basketball as well?
I don't think it would be that hard. I think they're trying to do that. I think the main problem, you talk about, I've heard people talk about media bias.
Mm-hmm.
The East Coast gets all the coverage.
Right.
All the coverage. And until, if Gonzaga's playing UNLV,
We will not see that here because I'm not staying up until midnight
thank you.
to watch it.
And that's the issue.
Yeah.
And so the next day you see Gonzaga 85, UNLV 70. Okay, they beat UNLV by 15. But what was the eye test? I
Right,
didn't see
exactly.
it, so I can't measure it. So going back to your point about can the committee get it right? To me, I know this is high schoolish, for the lack of a better term, but just have an open tournament. If you look at how you run your conference tournaments, you could replace your conference tournaments with what you could call sub-regionals.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't mean that, if you're in the Big Ten, you got to play all the Big Ten teams. You could, can move people around. Just like if you're in the SEC, it wouldn't be all the teams down there, or ACC or so on. But you could seed it so that Illinois is...
It's got to play in Iowa State or Northern Iowa, whichever one it is that's ranked.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And then it's almost like you're a play-in into the tournament. And if you use the time that you've set up for your conference tournaments to play those games, because if you think about how the conference tournaments work, we just mentioned you go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then the NCAA tournament starts. There's a play-in game like on Tuesday,
Or Wednesday, whatever it is.
and then the second round is Thursday, Friday, and then third round is Saturday, Sunday.
Sunday, right.
And then you get to your Sweet 16. You could do the same, because we think about like football. You go back to the point about football. We've talked for years about how Division II, Division
Right.
1AA,
Yeah.
how they do it,
Yep.
and it works. And they do 16 teams.
It works consistently.
Exactly. And when you get to the championship game, you have the two best teams playing in the 1AA or Division II or Division III or NAIA in those championship games.
Right.
So I know it's a little drastic, a little far-fetched when I say, have an open tournament like that. But if you go back just, 30, 40 years ago, when the tournament was only 32 teams, and UCLA would win
Every year.
UCLA would win 2 games, they're in the Final Four.
Right.
And John Woods is in 10, 11 years, he's in the Final Four because of that format.
Right.
It went from 32 to 48, and then went from 48 to 64?
60, yeah, whatever, yeah.
And now we're at the 68, 69 level right now with the play-in games.
But that's all about money, as we both know. So
Bingo. So that's why I'm saying, I know the conference tournaments, as you just said, it's about money. It generates money for the Big Ten, SEC, ACC when they have these conference tournaments. You go up to Chicago, economy gets a nice little injection of an infusion of money for a 5-day period, and then everybody, whoever your tournament champ, automatic bid into the NCAA tournament, and then we've got 4 or 5 or 6 teams. They get the at-large bids.
Right.
But if you just play, I know some people say, well, you're extending the NCAA tournament. Well, the conference tournaments are just an extension of the NCAA
Big
tournament.
Dance, yeah.
Right. The only drawback would be if you lose on Wednesday,
You're done.
you're done. You're not none of this waiting until Selection Sunday and getting in. You're just out of the tournament. So
That could be fun, though.
that to me would put some intrigue into this thing, because let's look at a team like Northwestern.
Okay.
And Chris Collins gets them playing, and they win a couple of games and they're sub-regional, and they end up playing a Kentucky. They've won 2 games. Kentucky hasn't played yet because they've been sitting around. And some crazy quirky thing, and next you know, Northwestern's got a 3-point lead on Kentucky.
2 seconds left.
Right.
Yeah.
That just, people would be going nuts, and I think that would.
Channels will be changing.
That's it. But you won't, like right now, what's the argument? A 16 seed hasn't beat a 1 seed yet. Will it happen? Maybe.
Eventually, you probably will.
Right. But if you open this thing up, now the old law of large numbers,
Right.
probability now increases. That 1 seed will go down
Yeah.
because they're now going to have to face a couple of more games than they would have had to play in the regular NCAA tournament because they're playing it in the sub-regional style.
Right.
Okay. But I think we probably won't see a change in the format in terms of like the number of teams. Because right now you really don't get the arguments that we used to get when a team got snubbed from the tournament.
Right.
Because now when a team doesn't get selected, they'll put their strength of schedule, RPI, all that stuff up on the screen, and we'll sit there and look at that and go, yeah, even though they had 24 wins, who did beat?
Right.
So.
Well, the only arguments come from the homers, and they're for about 30 seconds, and 'cause somebody points out, look, you didn't beat anybody. Yeah, well, all right, shut up.
Right. The other thing that we're going to see in terms of not only the number 1 seeds, but those Cinderella teams. If you go back, I'm trying to think of the team that made it to the Final Four a few years ago. Not Butler.
VCU?
No, not VCU. Oh God, they were from the East Coast. But in thinking of them, they weren't from a power conference, and if you've noticed over about the past 3-4 years, the selection committee is really loading the tournament with power conference teams. Mm-hmm. And it goes to that point about, who, you may win 24 games, 25 games, but who did you beat?
Right.
And so a lot of these smaller conferences are really having a tough time getting their upper echelon teams in. They may only get 1 team into the conference now.
Well, because you don't want a who was it? Incarnate Word beat who in the Big Ten this year? Michigan State or somebody like that.
Yeah, beat Michigan.
Or Michigan, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, the big power conferences don't want that stain, if you will. But then, those smaller schools that are the coastal or the Florida team,
Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic never gets a chance because they don't. Nobody's going to play them because they're good.
Right.
And then come Selection Sunday, they're 28-2, and they don't even get picked because nobody will play them.
Well, and then now you get in. It goes back to your point about money.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm Wisconsin, do I travel down there to play that team? In the fact that they may have a gym that seats 6,000. Mm-hmm. It's really not a money generator for Wisconsin.
Right.
It's a lose-lose in the fact that economically it's not a win.
And you might get beat.
Right. And if you win the game, everybody's like, oh, who'd you beat? Florida Atlantic.
You're supposed to beat them.
Right.
You only beat them by 30.
30. There you go. So now you get into that scenario. So athletic directors and people within the Department of Athletics have to make these decisions of what's in the best interest of their university. On the flip side, you breed Florida Atlantic up to Wisconsin. it's now a payday, a lucrative payday for them.
Right.
And going back to the point about a lose-lose, you're still supposed to beat them.
Well, but depending upon when they go to Wisconsin, it may not be that big of a payday. You're going to have to buy winter coats, man. It's freaking cold up there. And none of them down there got a winter coat. So I don't care who their uniform supplier is.
Well, maybe Under Armour might be able to come up with some type of undergarment.
You see the greatest signed with him recently. Ali.
Oh, with Under Armour?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
He did. Over the weekend, actually.
Okay.
Well, the company that
has his naming rights and everything.
handles all this.
So then pretty soon we'll probably start seeing a lot of commercials with old footage of Ali and which, segue into that, now you're bringing another generation into the realm of the history of who Muhammad Ali is.
Yeah.
Because, you've got a lot of folks out there, who know who he is, but at this point in his life, 73 years old, we hear about all his health concerns.
And that's all you hear about. You don't hear about Thrilla in Manila or Rumble in the Jungle or anything like that.
Right. So hopefully that will be used to market to that, like I said, that new generation of fans who can find out who he was, what he stood for, and not just Ali the boxer, but Ali the person.
The man.
You're right. So that will be a good situation there. Now I know we were just talking about what's going to happen with these number one seeds in the NCAA tournament. But the other thing that, Sergeant talked about before we went to commercial break is this consideration of making freshmen ineligible in the Big Ten for football and for basketball. And, it's that old trial balloon. You let it go and you see what happens.
See how long it takes to pops.
Right. And they floated this thing out there and they've talked about wanting to discuss this with other conferences, etc. Well, the logic behind it is old.
Yes.
And archaic.
Yes.
Let it go.
Yes.
There's no way in the world you're going to come back and say to, we've talked about this on many a show. I'm a kid I played AAU basketball since I was 6 years old. And we were talking about this off the air. Everybody on the block's telling me,
yep,
Joe, you got a chance to go to the next level. Joe, you got a chance to make millions. And all of a sudden, I said, well, I'm thinking about going to play basketball at the University of Michigan. For what? You go to University of Michigan, you can't even play your first year.
Right.
You're ineligible. You won't even be able to play till you Man, are you kidding? You're messing with our money. I mean, your money.
Right. Exactly. And that's how it'll go down.
Right. And so then you got AAU coaches who, at this present moment, are working, as, for the lack of a better term, street agents. If I can get Joe to come to play at Texas A&M, because Texas A&M is a Nike school and I'm a Nike rep, and we got to get Joe on the court so that then we can get Joe in the NBA, so then Joe can send some of that money back and yada, yada, yada.
Sonny Vaccaro.
And I think when you hear, this is that, people are trying to figure out a way to combat the one and done.
The easiest way to do that is change the age limit.
But here's the thing. The age limit is determined by the professional league.
Right, exactly.
Not by the collegiate.
Yeah. No,
so
I
you
know,
can't
I know.
do anything
I know.
on your level if they don't change their level.
Yeah, but their biggest argument, we need to put the student back into athletics.
No.
That's their biggest argument.
Well, I'm going to kill their biggest argument, as I said several shows before. If you want to kill that, if you want to go back to the student athlete, stop playing basketball and football arenas. It has never been about student athletes. If you're Mark Emmert, the NCAA president, and you're sitting courtside at the AT&T Center that has 90,000 people in it,
and you can't even see Jim Delaney on the other side.
There you go.
It's too far.
So you're watching the Jumbotron just to see the game. Don't talk about student athlete. This is a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Okay, let me tell you.
No, it's a non-profit. They're not a corporation.
Michigan State Athletic Director Mark Hollis offers a counterpoint to that view. He says that college sports need to be more than just a feeder program to pro leagues.
That's exactly what they are, though.
Right. What else are they?
Because it comes down to money. It's like who's the kid from UCLA that sued for using his likeness?
Ed O'Bannon.
Ed O'Bannon. You know, he wanted some of that pie. I don't blame him for that.
Right. You're exactly right. But okay, so he's saying we want to get the student back into student athletics as opposed to just being a feeder system for professional leagues.
That's what he said.
But college is a feeder system for the economic system in America.
The professional league of
College
everything.
Yep, college football and basketball cannot just be a minor league system for pro sports.
Okay, so here's the thing. Let's go to that statement.
This is the AD at Michigan State?
Yep.
So I go to Michigan State. I'm an all-stater, all-American football player. Michigan State plays January Bowls. They're in the top 10 every year. I go there, why? Because I want to increase or enhance my chances to become an NFL player. A student who is an excellent business student goes to Harvard. Why? Because Harvard gives him the chance, a better chance of going out and getting involved with a corporation that can enhance his chances for success down the road. It's the same thing, except when I'm at Michigan State, I'm putting a helmet on as opposed to the guy who's at Harvard who might be putting a jacket on to try to enhance himself.
And even locally, look, if you're a computer nerd, you're coming to the U of I because they have an excellent computer program. They got that big, gigantic blue, whatever it's called, over there. And so, as Joe said, you know, the Googles and the Windows or Microsoft, whatever, you know, all the tech companies, they spend a lot of time here in town looking for those best and brightest. MIT the same way, Stanford the same way, you know, Michigan for engineering.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Google
so,
has an office out there.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And one of
people
the other
know
ones
that.
do.
Yeah.
Go
to Research Park.
Yahoo.
Yeah.
Right, but think about just what you guys described about Research Park. Why? Because they want to funnel
The talent.
into their business as opposed to letting somebody else come in and cherry pick them. So they said, instead of waiting for them to come to us, we're going to go to them.
And give them internships every summer.
Right. So, you know, this argument, like I said, this is, when you talk about let's get the student back in student athlete, that was lost a long time ago. When you sit there and watch, on the football side, a bowl game where the multi-millions of people within the United States are sitting at home watching it, and all the advertisement that's laid in terms of the money it's generated, and then you see, what was it, Cardell Jones, third-string quarterback. He wins the bowl game on a Monday night, and immediately the conversation goes to, are you going to the NFL?
Yeah.
Do you think Cardell Jones created that?
No.
It was the folks around him who created that.
Well, here's an example that I think kind of addresses this. If you look at Ivy League schools, none of them give scholarships as far as I know. And when's the last time you saw an Ivy League school playing for a national championship? So for the AD of Michigan State to go, we don't want to be a feeder program for the pro sports, well, maybe you shouldn't offer scholarships. I don't know if that's the answer, but I do know Harvard's don't give any. And who's the most athletically the most famous Harvard alum right now? Probably Jeremy Lin. That'd be it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what's funny about that, Mike, when you said about stop giving scholarships and that'll solve the problem? The only thing that'll do is get him fired.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Right, because all the alumnus will be like, what the hell's, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, plus players will feel, well, I don't have to go to college now.
They feel that way now, especially in basketball.
Well,
look at
especially if you don't have a scholarship, you know, mom and pop ain't gonna be able to pay for it.
Right.
Okay, so they go
So
like you
I
were
skip
saying.
college, and I go, like Joe said, either go overseas and play for
Right,
a few
exactly.
years, or
A year or two tops.
Yeah, get in to develop D League.
And but now that's actually the route if you want to get it back to the student athlete, because now here's what happens. Let's take that top level player that using basketball as an example. We cut him right out of the system. Mike Cox, if you want to play immediately, you got to go overseas. All right, Mike leaves. you're right there, probably on the same tier with him. Maybe you want to go play NBA basketball, consider age limit of 19, you're 18, you got to go overseas and play 1 year. All right. Joe Stovall, he's an all-stater, really didn't think he's ever going to be an NBA player. He's the guy they're talking about in terms of bringing in to play basketball or play football in college, because they know he's just going to come in, spend his 4 or 5 years, he'll play good ball, etc. That's the way you eliminate the feeder system. The problem is the Sam Brittons and the Mike Cox of the world are like, so that's my only choice? I got to leave my own country just so I can come back to play NBA basketball? I can't even go to the D League right out of high school into the NBA. So there's your dilemma, going back to what I said about the league is the one that's got the age requirement, and the colleges are the one that, no matter what they set, is going to be screwing with the guy who really wants to go play basketball.
Well, like I said, this is something that they're getting ready to throw out there on the table. And I'm thinking, if the Big Ten decides to go ahead and do this, aren't they going to have to see what the other Big Five conferences or other conferences are going to say? Before
you came in, we talked about floating a trial balloon. And that's what this is. They're trying to see, what the other guy, this is recon.
See what they do.
Right.
See what they say.
Big Ten is reconning, and they're going to see what the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, and the Pac-10, and what those other conferences, and they're all going to come there. They're going to whisper in their ear.
And
Are you crazy?
And after January, the SEC is going to go, yeah, Big Ten, go ahead and do that. That's what you should do. Mm-hmm. Because where are all those freshmen going to go play football?
There you go. So,
I can't believe that.
Speaking of SEC, I'm just going to throw this up here. Did you know that Alabama had a surplus of $25 million
in their athletic department?
That doesn't surprise me at all.
While everybody else was in the red.
It's Bama.
Right.
I know it's been a long time since you and I have been to Bama, but it's still Bama.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But well, I was just gonna say, I don't think that the commissioner of the Big Ten, Jim Delaney, I think he's a really sharp guy, and I think you're right. He's just throwing it up to see where it falls, to see what happens. There's no way
they would do it. They would not do this unilaterally. If the Big Ten said, we're going to adopt this,
okay, let us know how it goes.
Shrinkage. The conference would no longer, now Northwestern would be the best team in the conference.
Or Rutgers.
Or Rutgers, right.
All right, before we go to break, the Illini golf team is #1 in all 3 national polls.
Coach Small is one heck of a golf coach.
They won 6 out of the last 7 Big Ten titles. 5 schools have made the last 7 NCAA championships. USC, UCLA, Texas A&M, and Illinois.
Well, it's that new practice course that they built out there.
Is it up and running yet? I haven't been by there in a while.
Isn't that like no, they got an indoor facility.
But you can only do so much indoors.
Right.
So,
Or
5.
And
bouncing off the walls and everything.
All the schools you named, Illinois is the only one north of the Mason-Dixon line.
Right.
Cold weather school. So that it speaks to how good of a coach I think Mike Small is.
Yeah, Small said that they the only ones that fill out a place, because he said a lot of those golfers, like baseball players, like to go to schools where they can play year-round.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's, for a local kid from Danville, he's done quite well for himself.
Mm-hmm. I just thought I'd throw that out there for you Illini fans. We'll go to break when we come back. Baseball.
Yes.
Matter of fact, the Cardinals got to throwing around the ball this afternoon.
For what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Waste of time.
And
long time till October.
A judge, what's the word I'm looking for? Got it written down. He nixed the bid for the blockage at Wrigley Field, the players at Wrigley Field. So the Cubs can go ahead and throw up their Jumbotron and their bleachers in front of the rooftop viewers across the street on Sheffield Street.
That's him.
Waveland.
No,
Sheffield runs. Waveland runs behind Wrigley. Sheffield runs perpendicular. So it's parallel.
All right. Whichever one of them streets are on the right field side. That's the one they talking about.
Somehow I don't think this is quite over with yet.
Yeah, I don't either. Anyway, they already building the bleachers, is my understanding. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what the Major League is going to do to speed up the game right after this.
Welcome back.
People.
All that.
Hey, that's that refreshing. After you get you a good drink.
What do you got in there?
I don't know, but he's looking pretty happy.
It's that clear liquid, too.
Yeah, if he start
Yes, sir.
changing colors,
That could be a number of things.
like a mood ring. Check Mike out.
All right. Major League Baseball has implemented a significant pace of play rule changes for the 2015 season in an effort to speed up the game. It was announced Friday. The rules include mandating that managers stay in the dugout during replay challenges. That hitters keep at least 1 foot in the batter's box during at-bats, and a prompt return from play after TV commercial breaks and timeout, and time pitching changes. The league, which announced the changes with the Major League Baseball Players Association, established a pace of game committee in September aimed at making recommendations to speed up the game, which grew to a record average 3 hours and 2 minutes in 2014, up from 2:33 in 1981. Now, I thought baseball on the average take 2.5 hours, because when we do White Sox baseball games, I sit here and time them. Usually you get through three innings in about 45 minutes, on average. So if you look at 45 minutes,
3 times?
yeah, something like that, it comes to what?
About that much.
About that much.
Take care of
Yeah,
one.
About 2.5. About 2.5.
Yeah.
And then again, that depends on scoring, for the most part. When you got a team that's having a big inning,
Hey, nothing you can do about that.
ain't nothing you can do about it.
The issue I have, to me, I think what's extended baseball more than anything is the specialization of pitching. Where when we were coming up, you just took a guy and you threw him on the mound. There was no pitch count. There was none of that.
No.
He just threw. And if he got to the 8th inning, that was
Good.
great. Because your closer, if you brought the closer in, would pitch that half of the inning. And that was it.
That was it.
Now we got it where you get 5 innings out of your starter.
You got the 6th inning guy, you got the 7th and 8th inning guy, or the 7th inning guy, the 8th inning guy.
And what do they call him? You got a middle reliever, a setup guy,
And you close.
and your closer. And sometimes your setup guy pitched to one batter. Mike Cox
Right.
comes in, he's a lefty, he's got a 0.9 ERA, yada, yada, yada.
But he's left-handed.
And he's left-handed, and the guy, Stovall's good. They're going to send Stovall up. He's a righty. Oh, here comes Britton out of the dugout. He's pulling Cox after one batter.
Yeah.
And you sit there and watch one inning, and it could take a half hour
Yeah.
just because of the pitching change.
And in Major League Baseball wonders why nobody watches anymore.
That's it.
I do.
Well, but what was it they talked about in a football game? There's actually only 17 minutes or whatever it was.
Of actual action?
Of actual action. I mean, what you and I were doing when he was reading that story, I mean, you had all that up. Everybody's checking their batting gloves.
Right.
Dude, put them on right the first time.
And that's the thing, like what you were talking about, keep 1 foot in the box. Okay. Now, we all been taught playing baseball. Foot in the box. Live action, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I got my foot in the box, but
No, if you got 1 foot in the box,
that's when
if you got 2 feet in the box, that's when they can pitch.
Well, they can pitch when the umpire goes.
right. So if you got 1 foot in the box, and Mike signals to the pitcher, let's go, because I'm over there doing this every time, And the umpire's like, screw Stovall.
But
Pitch.
you know, when you're coming up playing baseball, you go through these rituals before you bat.
But it's gotten obsessive now.
Right.
It's you know, in one of our, you know, off the Cardinals, look at Matt Adams. Every time he swings, he steps, or every time he takes a pitch, he gets out of the box. He has to redo his freaking batting gloves. He has to check his hat, has to check his junk. You know, swing a couple times, look down on Kendo. Dude, you do that 27. You got 27 outs in a game.
Well, they didn't use batting gloves when I played.
Well, but the point remains the same. Well, yeah, they barely used balls and actual wooden bats, but
Right. 1898.
but you got every single batter. The guy hitting. You got Yadi Molina doing the same thing. Yadi's not a hitter. I mean, he's had a couple of great years, but if he hits the ball on the ground, it's a sure out. Why are you going to spend more time readjusting everything that you should have on right to begin with, and it takes more time to do that than it takes you to run down the baseline?
Now, you just mentioned back when you played, you know, and you're talking about rituals.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, everybody's got some type of idiosyncrasy when they play, because nobody has the same exact stance.
Well, yeah, especially when you're batting. Man.
Right. But to Mike's point, these guys who wear batting gloves now. Now, first of all, batting glove, it used to be you only wore it on the hand that
Your
was on the
offhand.
bottom of the bat.
Your offhand, yeah.
So if I'm a righty, I'm wearing a batting glove on my left hand, just like a golfer. But now you got guys wearing batting gloves on both hands. So they get to doing that. Why do you have to readjust the glove every time off of every pitch? Because I may take a pitch
Yeah, I was going to say, especially when you don't swing, you haven't put any torque on anything.
and I'm still readjusting on that. You know, I think the thing they should do to speed the game up is just like what they have in the NBA. They got a shot clock, right?
I was getting ready to get to that.
Shot clock is prominent in the stadium, either on top of the backboard or somewhere where everybody can see it, and there's no question in terms of that. So if I'm a batter, there should be, if I'm a right-handed batter, there should be a shot clock or a batting clock, 10 seconds?
Yeah, whatever it is.
And it should be directly across from me at the opposing dugout or team dugout. If I'm a left-handed batter, same position.
Right.
And then there should be one
In center field.
in center field. So that now, umpire sees it, I see it, you know, everybody sees it. There's no argument. That thing, and put it, like I said, set it at 10 seconds. So between pitches, you got 10 seconds to be ready for the next pitch to come in. And if you're not, that's automatic strike.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, some of this blame goes on the home plate umpire because it's in the rule book. If he says play ball and you're not in the box and a pitch is thrown, you're already getting a strike, or if you're whatever it is, however it works out between the batter and the pitcher. So some of this, you know, these 3-4 hour games is on the umpire because they sit there and they, you know, let Matt Adams take 5 minutes to readjust all his junk. Call play ball. Let's go.
And that's why, like I said, if you put a clock out there, now the umpire, it's right there. Fans
Everybody
see
can
it,
see it.
everybody
Yeah,
see
yeah.
it.
All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this.
All right.
Players who violate the rules will receive a warning with flagrant violators, subject to a series of fines up to $500. Sources familiar with the changes told ESPN Jason Stark. All right, let's get into what they're talking about.
First of all, $500 from a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah, it's not
I
really too
don't
much.
care what level you are in the salary structure. That's nothing.
Okay, now here's what they're saying. Timers will be used to govern the length of breaks between each half inning. That means when they go to commercial breaks. Counting down from 2 minutes and 45 seconds for nationally televised games and 2 minutes and 25 seconds for local broadcasts. The system of warnings and fines will be used to enforce these pace of play rules. Now here's how they're going. With 40 seconds left, walk-up music begins. Now, why batters need walk-up music? I don't understand that at all. Anyway, every batter got a different walk-up song. 30 seconds warm-up pitch ends. At 25 second, walk-up music ends. At 20 seconds, batter enters batter's box, and by 20 seconds, motion to deliver the pitch. They will have 2 timers, one on or near the scoreboard, and another on the facade behind home plate near the press box. Will be used in every major league ballpark to help quicken the pace. Let me see. Batters should be in the batter's box with no fewer than 20 seconds left remaining on the timer.
Why does a batter need 20 seconds once he's in the box to get ready to hit a pitch?
No, he should be in the.
No, I understand that. But say I walk into the batter's box at 21 seconds. You said, I may have misheard you or misremembered, as Brian Williams would say, what you said, but I thought you said then there's 20 seconds and then the umpire will go, play ball or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Why does a batter need that long to get ready? You've been doing this all your freaking life.
Yeah.
Put your cleats in the dirt and go, let's go.
Right.
Couple practice swing.
That don't take 20 seconds.
Now, the pitcher gets 8 warm-up pitches before the timer reaches 30 seconds. If he don't get all 8 in, he forfeits the rest.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you want to speed the game up? Have them stop throwing the ball around the infield after every out when there's nobody on, or after the warm-up pitches to throw down to second base. No, wait, I think about it. You're telling me Yachty doesn't know how to do that?
I mean, you going back to when baseball first started.
Whatever. If they want to speed the game up,
Gotta throw it around the horn after a strikeout.
Now I think it goes back to what I've been talking about for a while about reality show. Professional sports on TV is a reality show. And we've already talked about how football has done the best job. Even though, as Mike indicated, it's really only 17 minutes of real action. Because you think about what football is. Quarterback comes up, he starts doing his Omaha, all of that. But there's really no action going on. Everybody's shifting around. Ball is snapped. You get to football. Play runs maybe, 5-6 seconds?
Yeah.
Big pile up. And then it's 45 seconds on the clock. And everybody lumbers back. Line up, huddle up, and all that. Basketball is more of a fluid game. It's just like tennis. It's just back and forth. But baseball, even though baseball is the fastest moving game, because you only have basically less than half of a second or a quarter of a second to make decisions on things, and when the ball is hit, the movement of all the players is so quick. But before that happens, nothing's happening. And you imagine trying to attract a young person at home
in today's society where everything's instant gratification,
to get them to sit there and watch
for 3 hours.
And they're watching this. I'm the pitcher, so I done stepped off the rubber. I got the rosin bag and wiped my forehead. Got my mitt under my arm, and now I got the ball and I'm rubbing the hide off the ball. While I'm doing that, you're out of the box. You've touched yourself in places that nobody else wants to see. The umpire is standing there looking like he's thinking about the buffet after the game. The catcher's down there talking about, I need arthroscopic surgery on my knees.
Third base coach is doing all this.
Right. He looks like Madonna and Vogan. And then you get in the box.
It's the nature of baseball, Joe.
Right, but here's the point. The nature of baseball was a great thing before TV.
I remember the first baseball game I ever went to was in St. Louis. We got there at the half inning because all my mom and dad's family's from down around St. Louis. It took 2 hours to play that game. Gibson was pitching. It took 2 hours. That was it.
Well, yeah, because it's get the ball back, throw it back.
Yeah,
right.
Well, that's the point. It took just a little bit over 2 hours.
Oh,
Captain Obvious,
right.
Miss Obvious, or misremember, whatever. But back in the day, people didn't spend 5 minutes outside the batter's box. You did that against Bob Gibson, he'd drill you with the next pitch,
right,
and dare you to say something about it.
Right.
And now if you throw inside at one of these prima donna Alex Rodriguez type of guys, or Pujols for that matter, everybody wants to fight.
And then going to Mike's point about the fine, the fine should be a percentage. It should not be a flat fine, because if I'm Pujols and I'm making $210 million, $500 is like you don't pay for nothing.
You don't pay for nothing.
Right. He ain't paying it. $500 is nothing. But if you a guy that just called up from the minors,
That's a lot of money.
Then you're not gonna break the rule.
right? But the rules are for everybody.
You're probably not even getting out the.
So if you're gonna, like I said, if you're gonna
You're
find
probably
them,
getting to the batter's
it should be a
box.
percentage based on your salary. Then
Yeah.
at least that way, it's equitable for whether it's the lower level guy all the way up to the mega superstar.
All right.
But
Also, new rules reduce the time managers spend chatting with the umpire while waiting recommendations from video coordinators on their own coaches or their own coaches. Meaning, you can't sit out there and chat with the umpire while you waiting on one of your coaches to look at the video to see whether or not we should challenge this last play or not.
so you just stay in the dugout, coach buzz down,
Yeah.
challenge it.
Yep.
You throw what red flag,
No,
or-
you just wave your hand, get the umpire's attention.
and then they go.
then
Now I
they
will
go.
say this: I did like how review went. The only problem is going back to you and about being a traditionalist when it comes. It took away the one thing I think anybody who likes baseball,
That human.
the human element of the
Yeah.
umpire coach argument. It is done now. You know,
Lou Piniella will never get another coach's job in manager
You won't
job.
go out there and be able to kick dirt on that.
That was had at people.
right?
Well, we're gonna challenge that.
And which I've told you before, I don't like instant replay. I like it at home plate. I don't like it at first base. Because umpires do a pretty good job. Those things are bang, bang. And they're usually about 98.9% correct on those
but
calls.
We must admit we have seen some that they missed.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's where 98% comes in.
Right.
Yeah, that's when we get to run out the dugout and
And
run all the way up to first base line.
pick the base up out of the ground, throw it in the outfield.
So, but what about second base? Replay second base and the phantom
Oh,
double play call?
Well, see, I got another problem with that because it's always been about if the ball beats you, you're out.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because really the goal is to avoid collisions.
Right.
And so as an umpire, if I see you catch it clean and you go by the bag, Sam's out.
Right.
Not because you didn't touch the bag, but I know your goal is to get away from that bag as that runner's coming
So
in.
don't get hurt. Yeah, right.
So that's.
Well, but we've all seen some where the guy might as well have been out at the fence in center field as he goes by second base,
Well-
and they're calling him out.
Yeah,
So-
that'd be ridiculous sometimes. You also be able to review whether or not a runner leaves the base early.
Oh, on a tag up.
Fly out.
Mhm.
Well,
just
but-
tagging up.
Why do you have what 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the postseason
Six
six umpires? Why do you have 6 umpires if one of them can't see if the guy left early or not?
Well, usually if you got a runner on third, the ball is hit out to the left field. The third base umpire is going to run out and take a look. Then it's up to either the home plate umpire or the second base umpire to watch to see if you're going to leave early.
The home plate umpire is looking right out down a straight line at it. Why can't he see that?
Because you're running at him.
Well, no, but if I line myself up appropriately
It's a different
to where I'm in line as an umpire
Captain Obvious.
with the
Oh, that's
base runner
classic.
Yeah, remember that.
and the fielder, I should be able to tell if you leave early.
And to me, it's once again, it's bang bang on those. It's very rare that you get a guy that is super early.
Yeah, it is
Right,
really
right.
going.
And
You
it goes
got
back
the
to
third base coach telling you when to take off anyway.
well, yeah, because he's go. Everybody hears that,
Right.
But that goes back to the 98% thing.
Well,
I
I'll
think,
be glad when the season gets started.
Well, like you said, Cubbies. John Lester was throwing a little bit on. I want to say Wednesday.
Oh, is it?
And
You
then
think he's going to be the starting pitcher on opening day?
he is. They
gonna-
paid him all that money
right.
to make him the number 2 guy.
to wear a jacket. He's gonna be
An
sitting-
ugly jacket
right?
at that.
Because he's gonna be freezing his butt off when the opening day is in
We
Chicago.
know the Cubs ain't going to really start playing until July or something like that.
And then they're done by September.
Who would say something as asinine as that?
You would.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
It's too cold out here to play baseball.
I'm just, you know what? I'm telling you guys, how every year you, as a Cub fan, you say, wait till next year. Seriously? This is a year, and I'm going to say it this way because I've talked to another Cub fan the other day. Realistically, with Joe Madden as your manager, and the number of young prospects they got coming in. Realistically, if they made the playoffs, that'd be fantastic. But to be a competitive ball team this year, where they even had just an opportunity to be a wild card team, I think is phenomenal compared to what's been happening over the past few years.
Oh, so you're assuming they are going to be that?
Yeah. I have to agree with Joe for once. On the Cubs. I think they're going to be real competitive this year, and probably won't finish in last place.
Right. Which is
a huge historic.
They will be in 4th instead of 5th.
Yeah, there you go. They will not finish in last place, I don't believe, this year.
I like I said, I'm looking at a 3rd place finish or higher in the National League Central.
You're talking about Cincinnati and Pittsburgh.
Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, St. Louis.
St. Louis
Milwaukee.
going to be in first now. I don't know.
Cincinnati's on the downhill, so Pittsburgh's still kind of almost to the crest, I think.
I think Pittsburgh has topped out because it's a small market team. McCutcheon is MVP a couple years ago, hell of a baseball player, but they need more and they're not getting more, and they can't get more because of the market. That's really
true. That's true.
That's really what's hurting them. Because you think about how good Kansas City did this past year, and everybody got excited. Hey, the Royals did this, small market team, etc. They're not going to do it again.
Right.
Because you have to remember, go back to that wild card game against the Athletics. The Royals were done. It was all.
Oh yeah, they were. They were beat.
And miraculously they came back and they moved on.
Kind of like a Steve Bartman thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, Alex Rodriguez is coming back. What's the manager's name? Joe Girardi said he's going to play his way back into the lineup. They owe him $61 million for the next 3 years.
They'll keep him coming off the bench long enough to where that's down to about $1 million.
Okay, what? They'll let him go?
See ya, Alex. So that he can go to Walmart and get a Spider-Man costume or whatever it was with his daughter.
The most embarrassing part about this whole Rodriguez biogenesis deal is
he went to Walmart?
Well, no, the Spider-Man costume.
Oh, okay.
But
Elastic.
all the denial and all the accusations of the people he hurt with his denial, and the accusations he threw at multiple people within the organization and outside the organization, trying to save face, I think is probably the most embarrassing part.
Yeah.
To deny that, hey,
And then
I'm gonna go to Ryan Braun.
Yeah.
Ryan Braun threw the collector of his specimen under the bus to the point I think the guy got fired.
Yeah, he did.
To me, that's just an abomination of character, because Mike accused me of something. I said, Mike, prove it. But if Mike accused me of something and I get you fired because of his accusation, which is true,
I'm coming after Mike.
no, you should be coming after me.
I'm coming after both of you. The bio dude, whatever his name is for, he got 4 years in prison. I think that was either Wednesday or Thursday.
Mhm.
He got sentenced. So.
He got fed time. He'll be going to a
Club fed.
club bio. He'll be chilling there.
Mix some stuff up in our kitchen.
There you go. See, they'll be using him
Yep.
to create something for the military or something, and some have a Captain American super soldier or something like that.
NBA scored almost 300 points Sunday on their NBA All-Star game, which I thought was really ridiculous. But that's how they play ball. I didn't watch it, so.
When and Mike Cox is one. I know we're on different sides of the fence when it comes to NBA basketball, but Mike says they don't play defense. That game, they don't play defense.
Kevin
You gotta
Hart
see
doesn't
that.
either, apparently.
Yeah, with Monet Davis taking him to the hoop.
Yeah, did you see that move?
Hey,
Gino was real happy.
after he's like, sign the letter of intent now, young lady.
She looked real good out there.
Hey, she is
She's
I
an
mean,
athlete.
I mean, amongst everybody else was adults.
right. She's 13.
Yeah, and out there putting that crossover and spin move on Kevin Hart, he's standing there.
And what's funny is they were the same
I was
size.
going to say they're about the same size, so he could get down and play some defense.
Yeah, when she was on defense, he was trying to run her over and knock it down and stuff. Come on, Kevin, man.
The festivities over the weekend, the 3-point contest, I really enjoyed that.
Who won that, by the way?
Stephen Curry, he beat his teammate, Thompson.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I enjoyed about it is they had the top 3-point shooters from the, sometimes they'll just throw guys in just like the dunk contest and you don't get the quality. But, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Kyle Korver, Kyrie Irving, just to name 4. Bellinelli, I think, who won it last year. Yeah. You had some real quality guys out there shooting threes. And they put on a real good show. The dunk contest, I don't know if you saw the dunk contest, but Victor Oladipo did a 540. And when he did it, I jumped out of my seat. I'm thinking, that's the greatest dunk I've ever seen. There's no way. And then Zach LaVine comes up, and it looked like Zach LaVine had cables attached to him because he's just floating in the air. He's wrapping the ball behind his back and through his legs, and he was still going up as he was dunking. I mean, he put on a show. The only problem is, how many people know who Zach LaVine is?
How many know who Victor Oladipo is outside of the Midwest?
That's it. And that's where the dunk contest has lost its luster, is that the stars who used to be in the dunk contest don't participate anymore. Yeah. And then LeBron James, I usually defend LeBron on everything he says until now. When he made the comment that, man, I should have did it. Man,
shut up.
Shut up. Shut up. You had 11 years to participate in the dunk contest, and you didn't do it.
He never had?
Never.
No.
So that's the point. And, from Dr. J to Michael Jordan.
I was going to say Larry Bird, but he didn't jump.
Okay.
We did jump, but
Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett is going back to
home, back to Minnesota,
where he first got started.
I think that's one of the things I like about the league, and the fact that sometimes when they do a trade, they're doing it to give a guy an opportunity to go back and end his career on a high note. Minnesota's horrible. They got a lot of young guys on that team. You send a Garnett back, not for them to improve in terms of wins and losses.
Do some mentoring.
Exactly. Teach them what to be a pro is. What it means to
get. He is that. If
right.
It's nothing else, he's that.
People can say what they want about his nasty behavior on the court and stuff like that, but he is a lunch pail, get to the office hour early, leave a half hour after everybody else is gone. He puts the work in. And I think Andrew Wiggins and a Levine, for that fact, who played for Minnesota, can see, as a 19, 20-year-old kid,
this is what it takes.
This guy has been in the league as long as these guys have been alive. And so when they get to see that.
And came straight out of high school.
Right.
And got to where he is now.
There you go. There you go.
There were a lot of trades made during this past week. Too numerous that I can't remember most of them. But really wasn't paying attention. I just thought I'd throw that in.
This dude got traded for that dude.
He's going over there.
Old boy live here, going there. Well, a couple of things if you look at. Chris Bosh may be out for the season with blood clots in his lungs.
Same thing that killed Kersey.
Right, and I was going to say.
They said it wasn't life-threatening.
Well,
because they caught it.
Yeah.
Right.
They're aware of it.
But Jerome Kersey, as he just mentioned, 52-year-old.
Passed this week.
Passed away, had surgery earlier in the week. They said he was at the facility, wasn't feeling well, said he was going home, dropped dead in the parking lot on the way out.
Blew up his heart.
Well, so, those things, we forget the human side, and going to human side to Carmelo Anthony. Played in the All-Star game, you could see him struggling. I mean, you could just tell that Carmelo his legs are not there. And so now he's shutting it down for season-ending surgery to try to correct the problem he's got. But the main problem is he's a Knick.
Yeah.
There's no surgery for being a Knick right now. They bought out Amari Stoudemire, the remaining portion of that ridiculous contract they gave him 4 or 5 years ago, basically $100 million over. So he's now a Dallas Maverick. In terms of Oklahoma made a big trade, and they got rid of Reggie Jackson. He's gone to Detroit.
He's a pariah, apparently.
Kendrick Perkins, he was traded, but he's going to get a buyout so he can become a free agent, and he'll get the ability to sign with a
contender.
A contender, because I think they sent him to Utah, and they are not a contender. That's the one. Like going back to what I said about the league, I like that. Like in NFL, you might trade a guy to a team that doesn't have a chance to get into the playoffs, and he just goes there and LeGarrette Blount and becomes a cancer, and the guy has to get cut. Well, in the NBA, they'll pay you to get you off the team.
Yeah.
I think that what a country.
Hey,
You go and hey, we don't want you. Here's $2 million. Thank you. I'll go wherever I want.
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. You see where Jay-Z asked David Wells about the bloody sock?
David Wells or Kurt Schilling?
No, he asked David Wells.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Thought he was talking to Kurt Schilling. They all look alike.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Wells is a lefty. Schilling's a righty. So
Wells has a beer gut. I don't think Schilling does yet.
Schilling has a beer head.
Yeah.
But,
Schilling has more hair.
Right.
but that's what David Wells said. That wasn't me. So I guess that ended that. Jay-Z was sitting there.
Jay-Z. Yeah, I was gonna say, you should just go home and see about Blue too.
Beyonce. I thought that was pretty funny, though.
Yeah, that is.
Huh?
And isn't he?
You can tell there's a dude that don't watch baseball.
And he's an agent, right? Or he has an agent.
He's supposed to have an agency.
Yeah, exactly.
But that also goes to show you
He don't know baseball.
he not only
He doesn't know New York, the city
right.
he grew up in.
there you go. To not know who the bloody sock is and not know who Kurt Schilling is.
Who played for the team you guys hate?
And okay, let's just go to further. You joke about that all. Kurt Schilling's a redhead.
Yeah.
David Wells has no hair.
And he's big.
Right.
And Schilling's tall.
Right.
Wells is short and squat.
He's a hell of a pitcher, though. Quickly, what's going on local?
Locally, Champaign Centennial will be on the road to Normal Community, battling with them in Big 12 action. Urbana will be taking on Peoria Manual
Uh-oh.
tonight. And then Champaign Central is on the road to Danville. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I don't know if Centennial or Urbana is in town. There's usually, one school
Right.
is at least in town, other three, but right now, Central's, they're out of the running for first place in the Big 12. They lost last week to Bloomington, so we're 5-3. Centennial, big game tonight against Normal because they've only got 2 losses in the conference. Normal is undefeated, so if Centennial can win tonight and then Normal lose one more game, then it can tie for first place and get a share because after next week, regular season's over, and then the following week, you'll start moving into regional play. Girls basketball, St. Thomas More upset last night.
Yeah, they got beat.
Bloomington Central Catholic, 48-46. So the
No repeat.
Sabres,
Tory!
so they lost in the sectional finals. So
State wrestling championship.
Well, before we get off of basketball, Franklin boys.
Franklin boys, 4th place in the state, 8th grade.
All right.
The state was played over at Urbana this past week.
He knows that. 'Cause
Yeah, right, because his picture hangs up in the gym locker room,
Yeah.
inside a locker.
There's
In the stall.
Yeah, leave that one alone. Leave that one
I'm
alone.
gonna leave that one alone.
They put that down in the urinal
You made me lose my
pucks.
train of thought.
Yeah, so congrats to the Franklin 8th grade boys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, congrats. Oh, wrestling. State wrestling championship is going on over at State Farm Center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Central got a.
Amir James.
Yeah, got a couple of people in there. Centennial had a couple of people in there. So
Amir James won. He got to the quarterfinals. I think he has advanced to the semis.
The other 3 kids.
Brandon Klein didn't participate because of a torn meniscus in his knee. He tore that in sectionals. Tristan Schoonover, I think, lost his first match. I don't know what he did on the wrestlebacks. And let's see. And then I think Riley Staub,
Yeah.
Coach Staub's son, I think he was at the 116 weight limit. And I think he lost his first match. So I don't know what he's done on the wrestleback. But, just to get to state, I think anybody can attest.
I mean, looking at the highlights, that's rough out there on
Hey,
the mat.
and when a guy pulls a some salt out and throws it in your eyes, and then chokehold on you.
You reach
Noogie in the
Look,
headlock.
right. Then he hits you with a chair, and that's the other wrestler.
Yeah, you know, they reaching and grabbing for stuff. And
He did make it back at 4. We got to give him credit for that.
now if he can get here by 2.
Yeah.
Hey, that man is running on Stovall time.
We can tell.
That's why.
Our show have to be caught in progress. We now join Talking Sports in progress.
In progress.
All right, let me see. Is that it? Yeah, we're about out of time. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Talking Sports. We do this each and every Friday from 2 to 4. You tune in next week. We'll lace up and do it again. Mike.
2 more. Thank you, gentlemen.
Joseph.
My helicopter came under fire, but I was able to successfully take a hard landing. I returned fire to the enemy. Oh no, wait a minute.
I misremembered.
I misremembered.
No, that was my chopper, remember?
Right, your chopper was in front of my chopper.
No, it was a Humvee. We were going down the road.
No.
And I was on top on the 50 cal.
Yeah.
That was my
That was
that
yours?
was my chopper.
Okay.
Well, who was flying it? Who was the pilot?
Rambo.
John Rainbow.
Hey,
What does this do?
We'll see y'all next week.